Hi, this is Jenny Oya with Nuggets and Things. I wanted to share a little bit with you today about being a minority. Many times they talk about minority. It's like it's a negative thing. I love it. Being a minority. You know, there's so many points to it. We don't even, we haven't even opened up the bigness of it, right? The other day, I, got up and this downloaded in my spirit about the minority. Take pride in being a minority. Because let me tell you what that means. you know, Outside of your box, come out your box, come out your box. Minority, it means the lesser of a bigger group, right? 20 people decided they wanted to go to McDonald's. Two said they're gonna stay home and cook. Well, let's go with the majority. Majority is going to McDonald's. Well, go ahead. I want to stay home and cook. Most people say, well, majority rules. Majority may rule, but doesn't mean majority was right. You know. So I thought about this because when it downloaded in my spirit, here it comes. So many times, we look at the majority as being, the right. They are the right ones. They're the ones who do it right. Information you get. Because you get information, a lot of information about the same thing, we assume because a lot of people are saying the same things, that's the majority, right? Is saying the same things. That makes it right. It makes you lazy thinking. Because you don't even try to think for yourself. You let somebody else think for you. Because all of them said this, all of them said that. Because I don't care. You be the only one saying, nah, that ain't true. It ain't right. What we have been taught is to rely on our spirit and our spiritual guides. You know, we have been taught that now. Those you've been church now, you know what I'm talking about. You've been taught now to rely on God and your spiritual guide, the spirit. Yet and still, we listen to what media's talking about, what people are talking about. What did God say? What did he say? I know everybody's saying this, everybody's saying that. Got you all antsy, mad with folks. People snap, crackling, and popping, honey. You know, and forgetting, doesn't matter what everybody's saying or everybody's doing. What has God said? Because he's still supposed to now have the final say. Those of you, who talk strong about God now. Well, somewhere in your Bible, somewhere in your Bible, there is a passage that talks about God gave his people this land that was flowing with milk and honey. Milk and honey was rich. It's a rich land. And there were 12 spies sent off into this land. 12. To spy out the land. They said, go spy out the land and give me a report on what the land looked like. Tell me what it's gonna be. Well, 10 of them came back, the majority. 12 now. 10 came back and said, oh my goodness, they got big old grapes and everything comes in large bunches. They got a lot of stuff. I mean, it is really rich over there. But they giants over there, honey. Them are giants. And we see ourselves as ants. That's what it said now. We see ourselves as ants. Didn't say you were ant. Men going over there come back talking to their ant. We see perception, honey. Perception. Go, oh yeah. Feel the wind blowing? Go, oh yeah. Perception. How do you see yourself? I don't care what they saying, honey. So what? That's what they saying. But look, two came back and said, we can take them. We can take them. Ain't no problem. We got this. Did you not see them giants over there? Them men are tall. They big. They got this, already talking negative. Because you saw something that did not agree with what you believe. You immediately begin to feel negative and then talk and speak that same negativity to everybody. These 10 came back to give a report, and there was nothing but negativity, which I can't stand. Oh, good gracious, honey. But two, the minority, the few of the bigger group said we can take them. You know, I'm trying to get you to understand something, honey. Many times in life, it looks like the majority is winning, they're overcoming, you know, because you're such a small piece, you know, and you're a small piece because you view yourself as so, right? But I like it when they, you're a minority. Okay, cool. But let me tell you something that I found out, right? Um, there was another passage that talks about the Israelites, chosen people, and the Egyptians, right? And the Egyptians had enslaved them for hundreds of years. Mm. Ooh, I can pause right there. Ooh. They had been enslaved by the Egyptians for hundreds of years. And they were crying out. Come on, y'all. This should be a revelation. They were crying out for freedom. God, deliver us from this Pharaoh. Hundreds of years. So it was a whole lot of people passed away now, waiting on waiting on the deliverance to come. Didn't mean God didn't hear them. Everything's about timing. When the time came that God said he was going to deliver the people, the Pharaoh he wasn't ready to let them go now. Doesn't that sound familiar? You know, you know, they've been working for us, building stuff. And they made things harder when they heard that, Moses was trying to get the people free. They made it harder, but it didn't stop them. No matter, the 10 plagues, you know about it. Those you read about them, you know about the 10 plagues. But eventually, they had to release them, right? Now, the release comes sometimes, unexpected. The hardships are real, but guess what they learn, honey? Guess what they learned in them years being enslaved? They learned how to make buildings from bricks. They took hay and turned it to bricks. Skills that they probably didn't have before. Skills that they learned and mastered. And when they got free, we could build a house. Because we learned that over there in Egypt. Oh, what you need that? Oh, we know how to do that too, because we learned it over in Egypt. You need somebody to do, oh yeah, we know how to do that too, because we learned it over in Egypt. You want a well built? No problem. We learned it over there. See, sometimes you look at your hardships as being the worst thing that ever happened to you, when in essence, it is a gift that's going to help you when you get your freedom, when you get out, when you go into your promised land, wherever your goal is, wherever your place you said that you want to be. When you get there, you're going to come out, honey, with some things in your hands. You're going to have some skills, honey. You're going to have some abilities. You're going to have some money because they owe you stuff. There's no back pay, honey. Just think about it. So while it's a movie, what's that? Men in Black. I think Men in Black 2. The man stuck his finger down into this little other being's world. He stuck his finger in there. So what is that? And they saw this big finger coming and said, "All is lost. All is lost." And they were running around there hollering, "All is lost," right? Sometimes it's us. We're seeing some things happening. We're hollering, "All is lost." Because it's how we perceive it. It's how we see it. Doesn't mean it's how it is. Because somewhere it tells us, we walk by faith, not by sight. What we're seeing, honey, what we're seeing is our perception of it. Are we seeing through the eyes of God? Or are we seeing through our eyes, this physical, body? Is that what we're seeing it through? Because when we see things, it's a storm coming. We see there's a storm coming. But when you can see past the storm, behind the storm, honey, the sun's going to shine. Behind the storm, this is getting ready to happen. Behind the storm, see, can you see past the storm? Or are you only focused on the storm? Because if all you can see is a storm, woe is thee. You probably never see yourself, free. stuff in your hand, honey. Power. And you see yourself, you see yourself more as a victim than you do as a victor. That means your God is too small. Hmm. You know. And that's another point. Another point I want to mention is that there was a time when we relied solely on God. And that was before we knew how to do things. And because we didn't know how to do things, we had to rely on God to show us, right? I don't know where my money is coming from. So God, I need you to make a way that I can be able to pay my bill. I can be able to do this, whatever it may be, right? But now, when you got to a place that you relied on, honey, I get paid on this day, so I'm gonna be able to do this. So now that you got things lined up, you know, you push further away from God because now you can do it. When you relied on God for transportation, right? You know, before they had all these means of transportation, you relied on God. Sometimes it was Pat and Turner, right? Being able to walk. I need to get down the road to go and do thus and thus. You started walking. And if you needed a ride, you just believe that, God will provide. God will provide, right? Elohim, he will, he's a provider. He's gonna provide, right? But we get to a place that we become spiritually lazy, that we no longer relying upon God because now we can do it all. You know, Sometimes the church gets lazy. You know, we can talk about God when it's convenient, but then when it comes to relying on God and living godly, that God is going to work it out. Back in the day, with the 70s, we used to sing a song, Jesus will work it out. Jesus will work it out. You know, some of y'all probably don't even know it, right? But we sing this song, work it out, work it out, work it out, work it out. But we relied on God to work it out for us. Whatever the problem may be, he's going to work it out. Sickness and disease, he's going to work it out. No money in the bank, God will work it out. Barren, need to have children, God's going to work it out. Seeking a mate, God is going to work it out. You need a home, he's going to work it out. We relied on God because we depended on God because we had a relationship with God. But once everything became convenient, you don't have to seek God. People don't have to seek God like they were seeking God before. They don't seek God, they seek the media. What is this person saying about that? What's that person saying about that? What's the numbers on that? Well, they got over 1 million views, so they must be telling the truth. Really? That's majority, right? That's the masses. Because they got 1 million views, it means what they said was true. What they did was true. It was right. Not necessarily. Sometimes you get 1 million views because you got a lot of mess out there. And people love mess. People gravitate towards drama. They prefer to see something that's drama filled than to see something that's telling the truth. And it's going to build your spiritual life up, right? Used to be a time, we was, back in the day, we was listening to all the gospel stations to try to learn how to build our faith. Now the media got us, locked up. We own all kinds of, whatever these sites, social media sites. And we're looking at everything but what was godly, right? We're trying to see who went to jail, who was shot, what's going on out here, in this sector and that sector. And by the time you get finished with that, you're half tired, your brain about ready to shut down, when in essence, where is your relationship with your God? What have you found out from God that he wants you to do today? What have you found from God that has prepared you for today? And has God told you what's getting ready to happen in the next 10 days? Has he showed you what you need to do to be ready? Or are you relying on media because they're so interested in you? you know, they really want to keep you in the know. Really. Do you really think you're in the know? Do you really think you're in the know? Really? Do you know that half the information you get is so old? I don't care if it says it came out 4 hours ago. It's still old because this has been in the making for I don't know how long. It's just starting to come, trickle down, right? Be be in the know with God. And then when you have that special relationship with your God, whoever you name him, whatever, however, I'm not here to, you already know where I'm at. But when you're in the know with God, God will prepare you for everything. So let me go over here and I'm going to bounce off of this in a few seconds. We're at a time now that the veil has been, you know, it's been open, honey. Everybody gets to experience everything, right? High, low, white, black, rich, poor. They all experiencing this change, this reset that's happening right now, this shift that is going on right now, you know. And it just hit, you know, the middle class or the low class. Everybody's feeling this thing, you know. And then let me tell you about those that have already know what it is. The Israelites, those that have already know what it is to be underfoot, because you had that experience, because you've been there. Guess what happens when everything begin to shake and quake and things begin to break down, and people trying to figure out how they're going to eat and what they're going to eat, and whatever, and they already in, honey. you know how we do, honey. We can make anything, make it be a sandwich and be happy. you know Remember when the Wall Street, I'm sorry, yeah, I think it's Wall Street, when it crashed. I think it's like 2000, I'm going to say 6 or 7. When it crashed, honey, people were jumping out the windows because they felt like they lost all their money, right? And when they thought they lost all their money, they started jumping out the windows because they said, all is lost. We done lost everything. Isn't that amazing? And it's because their dependence was on their 401k. Their dependence was on that savings. And when the savings crashed, so did they. And then when it crashed, honey, you know, because everything was, their confidence, their trust was in a system, not in the God. Those he that have an ear, let them hear. You know, where's your confidence? What are you believing? Who you entrusting everything in? Really? Think about that, huh? Who you trusting? That everything's gonna be all right. Who you trusting that everything's gonna be all right? Who you waiting on to tell you that? You know? Good gracious, honey. I'm so excited. Because let me tell you something. When we are in contact with God, when we have a relationship with God, when we are praying to God, and I ain't talking about, saying your little prayers and jumping up, and said amen. But I'm saying you said a prayer and then you waited for God to respond and give you a revelation and tell you what to do after you prayed. And you got some guidance. You got an answer to your prayer. You didn't just pray, honey, and gave him instructions. Ain't that pompous? Honey, honey, it's so good to be a minority today. I love it. Because as a minority, as they say, you're not listening to everything that everybody's listening to. You listen to God. Makes a difference. You know what I mean? Those 2 spies that came back, those 10 was looking down at them, frowning their face. I'm like, you better listen. Don't listen to them now. I know what we saw. Those 2 said we can take them. And guess what they did? They took it. They took the land. It came in. And they got the milk and honey. Because somebody's got to believe when others break down and say no. Get to that point. Your perception can bring you or take you. We can get lost in what people are saying, or we can just be confident and rest in what God has said. What has God said to you? It is so good to have your confidence in God, to trust God in spite of what you might see, hear, or believe, honey. You got to know your God. And I think there is a strong possibility, and it's just a thought. What if God is trying to get our attention because we have fallen away from God and gotten closer to this world? We have gotten locked into a system instead of into Him. We have backed away from God, right? Never has there been a time like this that we've seen so much things happen. But I believe the things that are happening in this world today is because the church has fallen away from God. The church, who was supposed to be leading the people out of darkness into the light, is also in the darkness because many of the church people are doing the same things as the world, the exact same things. You can't tell one from the other, but then again, that's in the Bible too. You won't be able to tell one from the other. He said there'll be a great falling away. And if you don't see that, honey, it's here. It's evident. You know, church folks, honey, they can cuss you out just as fast as anybody else can. You know, they doing the exact same thing everybody else is doing. Creeping, sleeping, dipping, lying, fighting in the church. So it said if the if the ungodly is hardly be found, if the church folks can't be on the right track, where would the ungodly be found, right? We can't even get ourselves together. Why you expecting so much from them? You expecting the world to save you. I'm just saying. It's a mess, honey. It's a mess. But I think God is trying to get our attention. And sometimes, honey, we got to feel the whip. We got to see it at its worst for us to get back to a place where we can be able to say, God, we need you. And we can't do it without you. And maybe this is our time for us to get back on our knees, whatever, and talk to God. Because I think we got to come together and get it right. Anyway, this is just, some nuggets from Jenny Oya. You make it a fantastic day. Let your lights forever shine. You see nothing but the positive. No matter what you hear that's negative, turn it around. Turn it around, honey. You have the power to take nothing and make something into it. You know, people got a lot to talk about, but they should be talking about God more than they talking about things. And that's our problem. What we're seeing, feeling, or experiencing gets more of our conversation than God does. Isn't it amazing? Maybe it's just time for a checkup. That we need to check ourselves, honey, and realize some things, when they say come by fasting and praying, but some things, honey, just come by believing. It's time for us to believe that God is still God and God is not nervous about anything that's happening right now. We are running to and fro, nervous. Ooh, but it's good to be a minority, honey. I might be, it's just a few of us out here who's standing on our own, ain't budged, have confidence. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But God ain't moved. And I'm on his side. So who's on the Lord's side? I'm on his side. And I know something great is going to happen. Love you much. You make it fantastic. It's beautiful out here today. Love you much.